Welcome to the J. Michael Project. I have this awesome opportunity to be able to vlog podcast with the commissioner today. So before we start, I want to say thank you for opening up your house and open up your book for allowing me to come in and schedule this time.
Sure.
So this is Sheilah Sutton, one of the most extraordinary women I have ever met. Just so awesome, so informed and opinionated. And so there's no better opportunity for me to get her opinion and as we discuss a post-Trump election and how we move forward. Without further ado, Sheilah, please take it away. Share your thoughts.
Sure.
How do we move forward in a post-Trump election? I know there's a lot of people that are still stuck on the voting was rigged. He's a racist guy. Republicans this, Republicans that. This is not my president. But how do we move beyond that to then just be able to operate in our daily lives?
Great question. Well, thanks for having me and thanks for coming over. I appreciate it. Giving me this opportunity. I think this is a great opportunity for us and I want to speak directly to the Black community because I speak from where I know. I do think this is an opportunity, even though it looks sad. It can look sad and depressing to some. I don't think it's as bad as it seems. One, I think with Trump, he is very wishy-washy. So a lot of the stuff that he spouted on the campaign, I don't think is going to come to pass if it's up to him. If he has the final say, and we've seen that already in some media that he has flip-flopped on so many things already. So, but I think for us, we need to take a proactive approach, one, and get involved on a local level. We talk about the presidential election a lot of times, especially a younger generation, you all being 88 million strong. You come out to vote for presidential elections, but you don't show up for local elections. The local elections, local laws is really what impacts your life. So you have to get involved at a grassroots level. And I love the term stay woke. But more than staying woke, you've got to be involved. You can't just know what's going on. You got to be about what's going on. And you got to be a part of making things happen. I said earlier to Michael, he who controls the laws really controls the land. So if you're not a part of making those laws, you're simply going to be subjected to those laws, even if they don't benefit you. So get involved at your local legislation level. I serve on the council. I won with just over 200 votes in a town of almost 7,000 people. But I'm a part of making laws and rules for all 7,000 of those people. So if each of us decide that we're going to get involved, you have an opportunity to make real change. Without simply protesting in the street, you can make change in the laws that impact your life every day. So I think that's one thing that we need to do. And also coalition building. It's time out for being separated and us being about us. Black women, I'll address them specifically, and I refer to myself as Black, not African American, because I don't know the African experience. I know the American experience being born in the U.S. But Black women outpace everyone in getting college degrees. But then what do you do with that? That's individual success, but how do you apply that as far as a coalition of changing something bigger than yourself? I think it's a time for us we talked about the whole Stronger Together, and I was not a big Hillary supporter initially. Still am not a huge Hillary supporter. I'm registered independent, but I do believe in people, and I believe in taking care of people and doing things for the good of people. I was feeling the burn, like many of you probably were, in the younger generation I'm referring to. But I do think it's important that we be stronger together. A lot of times we'll see in our communities, a lot of our Black churches, some people will have 20 members, some will have 10, some will have 30, some will have 50. But imagine if all of those came together as one and started working together. You could be a congregation of 200 or 500 or 1,000. And it talks about, even in the Bible, how more can you can do more together than apart, than separated. So I do think it's important for us to look at ourselves and see how are we trying to work together to better our community instead of individual success. Because I think together we are stronger. And we need to look at that,
So,
especially in
question.
this
So,
situation.
a lot when you say that, right? We should build our coalitions. We should do more together. I think one of the we always say it, run for elected offices, or if we want to change community policing, let's put more black people to become police officers and whatnot. Well, how about what's your thoughts on the whole let's black boycott, and not spending money? Is that still as effective as the civil rights boycott, or do we have to change our tactics as opposed to just saying, let's boycott this XYZ?
So I believe you can do both. I'm a big proponent of both, and I don't think it necessarily has to be either or. I just think it has to be a collaborated effort on either front. The way that I'm choosing to work is from the legislation perspective, is to get more people involved. My goal for 2017 is to get more of us running for local offices. But if you choose to do a boycott, I think you need to have a large enough group, and you do boycott. I think it makes perfect sense, because I think bottom line, it really doesn't come down to a party or an idea. It comes down to $1. And so if you can get enough people on board to boycott, I say certainly do that. But I also think that you need to work with your local elected officials to get more people in place, as well as push them. This is the big key. When you elect people, you have the right also to hold them accountable. And I think a lot of what happened in the second term with Barack Obama, everyone was in awe. Oh, 2008. Oh my gosh, we got a black president. Awesome, awesome, awesome. But how many of us truly held him accountable? How many of us had things written down that we wanted to see accomplished, and we were pushing that button constantly? I don't care who's elected. You have a right to go to them and say, this is what we need. I've seen school board elections here where people elect people for the school board, and they go 15 people in a T-shirt, they're all matching, and guess what? They walk out and they get what they were shooting for. How many of us do that? So you can take something as small as a small town like ours and say, hey, I don't want you guys just buying land. I want to see some businesses here. You go there 20 strong, and you keep voicing your opinion, they're going to listen.
And I think it's important to say, as we think of elections, it relates to making sure people are patient, right? Because I think one of the biggest things is we want change immediately.
Right.
However, 4 years for a president, excuse my ignorance, I'm not sure how long a city council elected official or local offices may hold their position. But typically, we may come in day one and voice our opinion. However, day 365 or day 365 times 3, we're probably like,
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. I give up.
And so maybe that could be a reason people are not as passionate or active and don't believe in the whole process, because it's not as immediate.
Right. I think that's part of it, but I also think it's a lack of knowledge. So when you have 5 people sitting on a council and something can pass that you completely disagree with, that you've thought to yourself, no, we don't need that, 3 people can pass that. So that's how it affects you at a local level. So if you're
True.
not engaged and you don't even know what the issues are that are being discussed, you're going to be clueless, but this is going to impact you along the way. I'll take, for example, and I don't want to get too deep into it because it'll take up all of our time, the HB2 issue in North Carolina. This truly was not about the bathrooms, and the legislation that put it forward, they knew that. But they knew it was a hot media issue. All they had to do was call it the bathroom law, and a lot of people got on board. But really, it wasn't enforceable. Whenever you find something that's put in place that can't be enforced, it's a joke. It's to distract you. But the bill was 1,100 pages. What it affects is minority contractors. It affects our ability in municipalities to control minimum wage. So they're saying we can't set our own minimum wage. That's huge. And that's going to impact you locally. And you may not even recognize it until you go to work in a municipality and say, hey, well, I'm only making $9 an hour when so-and-so is getting 15. So I think a lot of it is education, learning how do these things impact me. And I think Hillary Clinton could have done a better job of tying when she said free college. She didn't even mean free college. She meant free tuition. But in addition to tuition, there's a whole lot of fees that go along with college. The fees in North Carolina are higher than the college tuition in North Carolina. So some of it's education and a lack of education, but it's getting with those local elected officials, and learning and finding out, how do these things really impact me? And how should I be involved in this process? But that's the coalition building that needs to take place.
So for folks to learn, I guess their number one thing they can do is either go to meetings. What other avenues can people try to stay informed?
A lot of information is online. You can look online and find about like our rules that have changed with our registration process. And I'll use North Carolina, for instance. Parties have been working since 6 years ago, 2010, working to change the laws on how people can vote and who can't vote. That was a 6-year strategy. That's not something that happened on Election Day on November 8th.
Right.
So if others are going to strategize, we as a community need to do the same thing. And strategy doesn't necessarily happen on day one. It's a process, and you have to keep building that. But I do think you have to work from different angles. So if you're going to do a boycott, you do that. Then maybe that's your effort. If you're going to get involved in local legislation, maybe that's your effort. But you choose and you pick something. It's just no different than any other goal. Pick your goal and focus on that goal. Building knowledge around that goal. If you're going to get a degree, you go, here's my degree plan. So what's your degree plan for what you're going to do going forward? Is it coalition building? Is it getting involved at local legislation levels? Is it boycotting? Is it protesting? How are you going to do that? And make that your work. Because I think when you're not focused, we're all over the place. I heard a lot of people comment about Black Lives Matter. They're not focused. They've got this, they've got that. Well, I think the founders, if you will, of Black Lives Matter, they had a focus. But people grab and pull and make their own goals out of what you're doing, and they make assumptions about what you're doing. So I do think you have to keep reiterating, this is our goal, this is what we're doing, and bringing people back to that so you can stay focused, so you can be successful. But I do think you have to be focused and choose a goal.
Okay. What else you have for us?
So I do think a lot of our division goes back to slavery.
Okay.
A lot of times we don't like to talk about that, and it's a tough subject, but it is what it is. Willie Lynch.
The Willie Lynch letter?
Yeah,
Yep.
it's very true. That was a taught phenomena. It's not a joke. It's not a story. He taught slave owners how to control slaves. And that was division.
Right.
Divide and conquer. And if you look at a lot of the stuff that goes on in our Black community today, there is, and I always say this, we have the elites that feel like they've made it, and they forget, I'm not even Black, or they try to disassociate themselves. We have the ones that are, hey, I'm feeling like I'm getting my own and I'm good. It doesn't impact me. We have ones that are struggling, trying to make it, and then we have ones that aren't even on the radar. They're just lost in poverty and don't even know how to make it. But there's several components. But if we're a divided community, we cannot succeed. We cannot succeed. And I do think that Willie Lynch process that was taught is still in effect today. I think we saw it during this election. We saw some people coming up talking about, oh, I'm supporting because of this, I'm doing this because of that. And a lot of times, brown people don't like to listen to other brown people.
Right.
And we've got to decide that, back in the 60s when the civil rights issue happened, Martin Luther King was an eloquent speaker and so on and so forth. But it can't just be an eloquent speaker that gets you on board. If people are saying things that's going to better your state, you've got to be willing to at least listen to that. And I think now we have this disjointed leadership in the Black community. And a lot of those are 60s babies, like, the Jesse Jacksons and the Al Sharptons and so on and so forth. And so we have this new generation where everybody's trying to do their own thing. And it's like, where is the coming together? So I just think if you have too many leads and not enough followers, where do you get? You
Right.
get
Confusion.
nowhere. Confusion
Yeah.
and division.
Yeah.
So I do think it goes back to that, and we really have to think about, what am I doing for the greater good? We have to get beyond self, because I really think that's what they did in the 60s. They got past self. Those ones that
True.
walked instead of getting on the bus, they walked. They didn't have to. They could have just got on the bus and said, forget that. I'm not doing this. But look at the change that was brought because of that. And I think change happens when we're collaborative, when we're together and we work together to build. And I don't think that's been happening.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's key. And I think that's something that we had to. So I encourage the listeners, viewers, to actually go back and read the Willie Lynch letter, to actually see his ideology of what he made sure he tried to implant into the plantation owners. That way it could cause the sinking of the Black
Yes.
people. And in history. I mean, you can see just the mental capacity or the mental toll that it takes upon us, and that even to this day that we're still battling, we're still trying to fight.
You can look at that. One of the examples is look at people who are born and bred, raised in Africa. Mm-hmm. They have a whole different mindset. And I'm not saying everybody. It's always, on average, you have to look at kind of the bell curve. But I have a lot of neighbors, and every African person that I have personally encountered, they are very, we come from kings and priests. They do not have a low mental picture of themselves.
Right.
And I do think in Black America, you can look at the whole natural hair discussion is a great example of that was a phenomenon that happened, and now we're divided because of that. Well, my hair is 4C. Well, my hair is 1C. It's like, get over it. Why do we divide? That comes from slavery. Why can't we just say we have many textures in our culture, we have many shades, many hues, but together we're stronger? If we could just get there, oh my gosh. And that's the fear in other places of us, is that they don't want us to come together because there is enough synergy that we could rule this world.
Definitely. We have a lot of power.
A lot of power, a lot of talent, a lot of skill, but we don't necessarily use it for the hour. For the collective, we use it for the me. Mm-hmm. And then we separate ourselves. The house Negro and the slave Negro. I had to throw it out there.
Just to say, I know I would have been a house Negro. But I'm still for us, though. I'm still for us, okay? So I'm still for us. No, I mean, I think that's good. So what else do you have for us as we come up? I
just think going forward, you have to figure out, I can't stress this enough, what is your goal? Mm-hmm. And then start working with some groups. You're stronger together. I can't say that enough. We are truly stronger together. So you have to build your coalition. And it doesn't have to be just Black people. But I do think you have to start building a coalition in order to make change happen. So
identify, prioritize, and implement pretty much. And then just work together. Use our resources. Start local. Look at, our neighbors, your community. Maybe that's the first place. And then churches. I think Black churches should kind of do a lot more. Right. But that will be a separate topic. Howard, before we close, again, I just want to say thank you. I think this is awesome. Time went by hella fast.
That was fast. That was really quick.
So we're going to have to get this happening again. Yes. I don't know exactly when, but I definitely want to appreciate you opening up your home and your schedule for me.
Of course.
So thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it.
And I'm always open for questions.
Okay.
Email, however.
All right. Well, the J. Michael Project, we are out. Again, thank you, Sheilah. Y'all enjoy yourselves. Have a happy year.